The suitcase in my room comes from a time well before the information age. It has many documents that nowadays no one would ever think to keep. But I'm wondering how I can use these documents to find out who my great-grandfather, Robert Bosman, was. He was born on the 26th of October 1883 to an English tailor named Robert Bosman and his mother, Frances Ellen Bosman. I have found his high school textbooks where he studied algebra and Euclidean geometry. When he was 15, he drew out this plan of a cottage. It's very similar to the one that my grandmother designed that we live in today. During his 20s, he worked as a fitter machinist for the railway, which took him up and down New South Wales on numerous projects. He loved to collect postcards of the places he visited. This book is his copy of the first aid manual that the railway issued him with. He had to know how to save anyone's life in an emergency. In the case that the driver was ill and could not drive the train, my great-grandfather was licensed to assume his role as the driver. Out of all the things I have discovered about my great-grandfather Bosman, my favourite is his wonderful collection of original sketches. He would often draw and paint with watercolours as a hobby, capturing whatever he wanted to forever preserve in his memory. In 1910, a postcard correspondence begins between my great-grandfather and a young woman. The postcards were sent to a residential address of 44 Glebe Street, Glebe, and addresses of Florence May Wiggins. The correspondence led to an engagement, and on the 11th of April 1913, the two were married at St. Paul's Church, Redfern. Receipts kept from the wedding expenses show that the couple enjoyed 18-carat rings and a 3-tier cake. Rob and Flo Bosman then began their life together. They moved out of the inner western suburbs of Sydney to the western suburb of Punchbowl. They made 18 Henry Street their home, which was known as Kennington. There Rob and Flo raised 3 daughters, Beryl, Gwendolyn and Amelia. Amelia was my grandmother. Unable to stand her first name, Amelia had everyone call her Beena, which was short for Robina. She was named that after her father. Continuing his job as a fitter machinist for the New South Wales Railway, Rob Bosman managed to provide his family with enough to live comfortably and happily. The story then hits a sad note when on the 11th of June 1927, Florence Bosman died in the Western Suburbs Hospital at the age of 43 years, which was 14 years after the couple were married. Her husband spared no expense in giving her a proper funeral, and from the receipt kept from the funeral directors, I learnt that he hired 4 horse-drawn carriages for a funeral procession from Kennington Henry Street to the Church of England section of Rookwood Cemetery. Without their mother, life was going to be harder for the girls and not quite as happy, but the family pulled together and managed to carry on. They made it a tradition to lay flowers on their mother's grave every Mother's Day. In 1942, records begin to show how Rob Bosman's health was failing. He was suffering from vascular hypertension, which ultimately led to a stroke. His doctor's orders eventually led to his retirement for the railway in December of 1942. He was then able to receive a pension. Rob Bosman still continued to do the things he loved, such as painting and spending time with his daughters. He would eventually see all of them marry and find their own direction in life. My grandmother married a man named Trevor Daly. While he was enlisted in the army during World War II, my grandmother stayed with her father at Kennington. Sadly, on the 22nd of March 1949, Rob Bosman died at the age of 65 years. To me, he has left behind a beautiful legacy of living a life that is centered around doing the things he loved and enjoyed, and fostering creativity in order to produce his very best work. It was such a joy to sort through his belongings in order to discover the wonderful person that Rob Bosman truly was.